Welcome. Welcome to week 5 of PSHS 6240 here at George Washington University's School of Professional Studies. Just a couple of announcements. Again, just 2 upcoming dates. Adobe Connect session is going to be 6 February, this Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Group 2 will be going, and they'll be discussing one of the WMD issues that is in the module. Please, again, get the slides to me ahead of time. Plan for about 20 to 25 minutes with 5 to 10 minutes for questions. And then for the rest of you, paper 2 is due 12 February, 11:59 p.m. I usually say Eastern Standard Time, but I'll give you the extra few hours if you're in the Pacific Time or you're in the West Coast. So everyone should have their paper 1 back. Just some quick issues. Again, far too much background. Get to the point. Right to your analysis. I know what happened with the FLN. I know what happened with Fort Hood. I know these things. Don't even bring it up. Do not repeat the definitions of terrorism. And what I say with that is, a lot of you said, these are the 4 criteria for terrorism. It was low-level tactics and non-state actors. I mentioned that there is a problem with each one of those issues. I mentioned that in the lecture. So to use those as criteria without, or to use those as criteria and just not as sacrosanct is, there's issues with it, and I brought it up in your papers. And then I mentioned again the 4 criteria that I talked about. One thing I'll also say is in the example I gave, I didn't want you to repeat those. That's not, I want you to think of, when you talk about motivation and tactics, some people just repeated those criteria. I did not want you to repeat those. I gave several criteria that you can use for whatever issue you're taking. Don't just repeat what I gave you. And then finally, passive voice. Again, I don't mean to sound like your 9th grade English teacher here, but I think people think they know what passive voice is, but they don't. This first sentence is passive. The ball was bounced by the boy. Ball is the direct object, bounced is the verb, boy is the subject. If the subject is at the end of the sentence, the sentence is passive. The boy bounced the ball is an active sentence. I would, especially if you're doing very tight writing, which you do either here or in your day jobs, label, direct object, verb, subject, predicate, preposition. Actually label those as if you're, again, in 9th grade doing it, so you can see what sentences are passive, to see if you're using too many prepositions, if you can economize your words. These are just better writing skills that would make your writing much more clear. And I would just use the writing center as well. So if there's issues, please let me know. And again, please take these lessons for the next paper. So week 4 review, again, terrorism adaptation. I put, will ISIS be successful, question mark. At a point when I taught this last, it seemed like ISIS was on the decline. But just like many of the groups that you guys study, they'd been written off at one point or another. And then they flourished again. And maybe we're in that phase where we're going to see the second coming of ISIS. Or actually be the third coming of ISIS, because they were essentially defeated in 2010. They made a comeback in 2014. They're defeated in 2017. And they might be making a comeback now, because of what's going on against the Iraqi or the Iranian militias in Iraq. They're giving breathing room for ISIS. What are the variables? What leads to success? What leads to failure? Hezbollah was one, again, a couple of you mentioned Hezbollah, and this was key. Hezbollah had their own outside fundraising or state support, essentially, from Iran. They didn't have to fundraise like those other groups, which sometimes you didn't get enough money to sustain yourself. Other times you had to turn to criminal enterprise and undermine your cause because you needed money. That was a massive variable that Hezbollah had, and that's why they're still around 30 years later. And then, when do we see the schism? Are we seeing the schism? We might have seen the schism in ISIS. what other terror groups are we going to start seeing the schism? And that's probably a way to look at some right-wing organizations and other terrorist groups that are out there. And then WMD Terrorism, again, I highly recommend you watch Dirty War if you haven't watched it. It's just a good movie that really brings the WMD issue to light. And then Om Shinrikyo, the case study, excellent case study, and the Rajneeshi case study as well. So those case studies should guide whether you think a terrorist group has the capability to target the United States. Why was Om Shinrikyo able to do it while others not? What are the variables of success and failure? And the Rajneeshis in the same case as well. And I can guarantee you I just got something, just like you have this assignment due this week, which I will talk about. I have an assignment in my day job to look at terrorism and the coronavirus. I don't think it's possible, but is there a vector here for terrorists to use the coronavirus to, if not inflict damage, to cause much more publicity and a lot more just panic, just because coronavirus is now in the news. So paper 2, again, 1,200 to 1,500 words max. If it's 1,501 words, don't hand it in to me. Outside the bibliography and the title page, I want concise writing. So that's what I'm looking for. Again, do some research, but this isn't a huge research project. And you have the scenarios in front of you. And these are the 3 scenarios that I give. Choose one, expound on it. Is it likely? Why or why not? This would be, if it was the real world, someone would go to you, someone like you, and say, hey, I heard about this news story about Al-Qaeda in Yemen and their ricin attack. Is this possible? Is this just BS news, or is this something I need to worry about? Have an answer to me, end of day. That's the real world. Here I'm giving you a week. But this is kind of an exercise that you'll have to do, I'm sure, in your day jobs. And then also address, if you're talking about any of these issues, you have to produce it. You have to transport it. You have to disseminate it. Is that possible? Why or why not? What are the issues related to that? So if there's questions or issues, let me know. And I look forward to your papers. So preview of week 5. Again, some of the articles we're going to ask, why, what's U.S. counterterrorism strategy? What works? What doesn't? Why or why not? We're going to look at other countries, but focus kind of on Israeli counterterrorism strategy. And, we'll ask the question, what can we learn from other countries? What works? What doesn't? From whether U.S., Israel, or the EU. If there's questions or issues, let me know. And I look forward to the discussion section.